focused on the impact of racial profiling on black males pursuing law enforcement careers. He's a renowned educator and trainer, having led sessions for the FBI, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, YMCA, and the NAACP, and various academic institutions across Florida on leadership, ethics, and criminal justice reform. He's a community-focused mentor and advocate, honored as Broward County's Mentor of the Year, an active leader in Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity and Prince Hall Masonic organizations. And on our panel today, we have Jamaro Portier, Director of Community Outreach for Florida's 17th Judicial Circuit, Broward State Attorney's Office. Dr. Joanette Brookes-George, President of Denise Johnson, Partner and Financial Coach, Unforgettable Financial Services. Dr. Tisha Nelson, Clinical Psychologist and CEO, Nelson Psychological Services. And Angella Fleming, who is a minister, Women Who Win. And clearly we have a distinguished panel here of women who win, yes, along with Dr. Sullivan. And before we begin with the panel, I'd like to welcome Chief Robert Torres, the Fire Chief for the City of Lauderhill.
Thank you, Chappie. And I just want to say thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity to come up and say a few words. What an impactful day. Right? What an amazing day. I've been sitting out back and listening to the different speakers and the panelists, and amazing, incredible messages that were touching each and every one of our hearts. And I got to say, I couldn't be more proud of our city that could do things like this, to bring together the community to really speak the truth. But it's a community that's about action, not just words. And I believe the mayor's message, our city manager, is exactly about that. We're not just going to talk, we're going to be action, and we're going to make things happen in our community. And this is how we change values in our community. Incredible panelists from here today. So I'm excited to hear the final panel today, all the great messages that are going to be shared with our community. And again, thank you so much for taking your time to be here today. Mayor, thank you for putting this together. God bless.
All right, good afternoon. How's everyone doing?
Great.
Now, one thing I will tell you, I truly enjoy being on this panel with all these dynamic ladies. and it's kind of interesting because when you talk about it, they talk about it and they say, women who nurture. Have y'all ever noticed that a lot of times they like to focus on the softer side of women? And I don't know about you all ladies, my mother has another side. and that side nurtured me as well. And it's kind of interesting that when I was growing up, my father was that straight, no chaser kind of person. And my mom was the one that said, Gregory, the least you could be is kind. And when we talk about it, ladies, and we talk about the different sides and the different facets of being a woman and what that does and the impact that you all have on society, not just by birth, but by who you are and what you bring, is multi-dimensional. And when we start looking at that and saying, how does that really impact with violence? And it's one of those things, you ever notice that something that will make any man fight is if you talk about his what? Boy, look about mama. Now see, that's a whole nother conversation when we talk about the violence, because you're being so dynamic. You got the boys that will fight over mama. I almost got into one of those altercations at 12 with a gentleman that was about 60 years old in Louisiana that was not speaking to my mother in the way that I thought he should. But one of those things, ladies, I'm looking forward to having a conversation, looking forward to see how we can go a little bit deeper than the shallow conversations that some may have about the impact of women on our society. And I'll get this started with our first one. We'll throw it out there and we'll start over here and go down, and then we might just bounce some questions around. If there's one that you hear that you really want to jump on, just let me know. We're going to do like we do. We're going to have a conversation, see what we can deal with. This first one is an interesting question. It says, do women uniquely experience or address the impacts of violence in their communities or homes? If so, how? Or is it the same with everybody?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. I think the answer to your question is yes, and yes, and yes, and yes, and yes. Okay, let's talk about that. So, women, black women in particular, who we all know bear the brunt of the community. I'm reminded of a conversation that took place back in like 1972 between Nikki Giovanni and the great author James Baldwin. And she said to him, this is just a segment of the conversation, and she was saying to him, she said, lie to me. And he said, what do you mean? I can't lie to you. He said, she said, yes, you can. She said, y'all leave the house every day, and y'all go out in the community and go out in the streets and y'all lie to whoever you come into contact with. You lie at their boss, you smile in his face, and then when you come home, I get the brunt of you because I love you. Lie to me the same way you lie to them outside, the same way you lie to them on your job, which means show me the same kindness. Show me the same kindness that you show everybody outside of the house. And because you're so exhausted with pretending to be kind, when you get home, you feel free and necessary to be unkind to me. Thereby, now we have tension, violence, aggression, anger, fear, frustration inside of the home. And it's left up to me to manage that as the woman. Because what? I've been taught that I'm responsible for the peace in my house. All right. Sis.
I would only add to what you're saying. Mama's baby, daddy's maybe. And at the end of the day, it's the single mother that has a responsibility for the family in our community. Unfortunately, that is the case because our prison to pipeline has taken our black men and kept them behind the bars. So that being said, even when they are outside, out of the bars, and they're home in the community, the children are with mom, and dad can disappoint and get away with disappointing, but mom gets the brunt of the disappointment. Mom gets the anger, the frustration that dad didn't come to graduation because he went to work. Mom has to deal with dad saying, I can't take you to Orlando, maybe you can get on the train and meet your friends. And mom's sitting looking like, how do I know that my child's gonna get there safety, right? So in our community, unfortunately, yes, the woman is the one that has to deal with keeping the house, the peace in the house, and navigating and mitigating the violence. Whether it's verbal, emotional, physical, they have to mitigate it.
Very good point. When you said that the single mothers, I come from, I guess, the financial status or the point of it. Financially, in the household, we take on a lot of brunt as well, especially single mothers, right? We know how to stretch that dollar. So therefore, if we're dealing with other traumas that are going on, financial burden on top of that can be a big stress in the household as well. One of the things that I like to do with my clients is try to just see if they can come up with another form of a way of making money. We are in 2025 now, right? I look at it as one of the best times that we're living, to be honest with you, as far as freedom-wise, if you really think about it. It's not that many regulations, not as of yet, but they're coming. But as of right now, we still have that space where we can create and come up with an extra income if we need to. So I think that as far as financially, lifting that will definitely help some of that burden as well and that trauma.
Hello. One of the things that I do as a psychologist, I do a lot of forensic work. So I'm actually working in the institutions with offenders, and I'm also working with victims. But I think as a woman of color, and these women here have outstanding organizations, we see each other and we see the needs of each other. And that's essential in the work that we do. where other genders or races may not see the violence that's inflicted against black women and our children, we not only have to look out for the needs of ourselves as women, but also as our community. And that's part of why it's very essential that we have women of color in leadership organizations and in leadership roles, particularly those that affect our communities.
I believe as women, we give primary care to the family and also in the business sphere. Us ladies, we wear several hats. We're mothers, we're wives, we're sisters, we're grandmother. So there's so many things that are coming at us every day from different directions. And I believe that when we support each other, as a single mom myself, I had to grow my 2 sons by myself. And I had to dig deep. Yes, I'm a minister, and I grew them up with the Word of God. That was the foundation that I brought up my kids on, and thank God I was able to do that. So we have to stand firm and be intentional as women. Another thing we need to do, women, especially single women, you know, when you meet a man, my God, you have to make sure you check them out before you bring them to the home and to the kids. I have a girlfriend who went through, she was dating this guy, and she told him she was going to leave. And he didn't want that. He threatened her. But I guess she didn't believe him. And after church one day, sure enough, he showed up in that parking lot. And I think it was maybe 10 bullets he put in her. Wow. But thank God, she's still alive. So there's so many areas of our life that we have to be intentional in the things that we do for our kids, in the business arena, with finances, in our finances, as single mom and just moms and women on a whole, we have to make sure that we're putting that foundation. And I think we play a pivotal part of the emotional management of our community.
Outstanding. And as you all were discussing things and talking, I'm of course doing some reflection there when you're talking about the allies. Because as women and as anybody that's in a minority group, we can't do it all by ourselves. And I thought you were going to say with your friend that had that ally, kind of like the young ladies that are going off to college. The best thing you can have is a crazy homeboy. Because when you're in college and the guys are trying to talk to you and they know you got the crazy homeboy, they won't mess with you as quickly. Because also, as powerful as the ladies are, guys, when they are approaching your daughters, don't approach them the same way if they got a crazy homeboy or a daddy around in the house. And so you ladies are all commended, because the thing of it is, imagine all the things that you all are doing and the example you all are setting for these young ladies about what the possibilities are. So I really commend you all for that. When we talk about the other one, say, how can safety and justice solutions benefit by increasing the usage of women's voices and experiences?
That is such an enormous question, because as Black women, we are constantly forced to defend ourselves in every realm of the world. Not just in our homes, not just on our jobs, not just in the, with financial institutions, but also in the medical community. We have to defend ourselves everywhere we go, right? Our pain is not respected, right? Our voices are misinterpreted and judged as being aggressive, right? And so when we're talking about these things and how to defend ourselves, when we are in a position which we always find ourselves to be, where we have to defend ourselves, because it is a fact. Malcolm X made the statement, the most unprotected and disrespected human in the world is the Black woman. That is a fact. It's an absolute fact. And when we are placed in positions where we have to defend ourselves, we are sometimes attacked by our own community. So when you ask us the question, how do we do that? We do that by getting the help that we need from our community. You know, we need our black men to stand with us. We need our black men to protect us, regardless of how they feel about how we are living our lives and who we're living our lives with. When someone comes to attack us, to harm us, to disrespect us, right? We need, as black women, we also need that village, right? And so, you know, in protecting ourselves, we need our voices respected. We need our pain respected, right? And we need people to understand, and I'm going to take his words, just because we're magic doesn't mean we're not real.
So, my sister said a lot just now, and I just want to delve in a little bit. Systematically in this country, our voices are silenced, point blank. And yes, we need our black men to support us, but our sisters need to support our sisters. That's really what it is. We are too busy getting caught up with the things that these systems place in social media to distract us with, and we're fighting against each other. We need sisterhood. And when we have sisterhood, we can fight and get our men from behind bars. And then those men are going to come and join in the fight with us and support us. That's what we need.
I love how you said sisterhood, because you're right, sisterhood is important, and sisterhood can also be economic as well. We can support ourselves economically with each other, and I think that that's a big thing that we can do in our community as well. Is just support each other financially, whatever our financial, whatever it is that we want to do that. So that's why I think sisterhood, when you mentioned that.
And as you touched on finance, let me get it to you. Someone said it earlier, they left. Support the sisters that are taking their time and volunteering and pouring into our youth. And I can speak to that myself. I get 100 views and 100 likes when I have a cute outfit on and strutting down the stage, because I'm out for fun. But when it comes to, here are the links to programs that we're running, and we're looking for small donations, even $25, because it's 2025, I can't get a penny. But they're quick to drop off their babies because it's a free camp. But I get crickets when I come to the community and say, help me support the babies that are suffering in silence. We need to get up and do that work.
Also, to add to that, not only the volunteers, but as a helping professional, highly underpaid. And the work that is done for the helping professional is not easy, it's taxing, and it goes unthanked. And then they're not underpaid in addition to that. So the teachers, the nurses, all of these occupations that are predominantly led by women of color, we have to support these women because they're on the front lines and they're doing the heavy lifting, and they don't always get the support that they need. But going back to allies, I cringe to think of what's going to happen in the workforce with, you know, the push to get rid of diversity and inclusion and affirmative action back in the day. And even when we had those initiatives, it was still very difficult to get a woman of color in a leadership position across all of the entities. So we have to be allies for ourselves, not only as the men, but then also women. I get so many women coming to me for counseling when their biggest issue at work is their black female supervisor. And I don't know that we recognize that, you know, because we've gone through these things and we had to struggle and, you know, we had to pretty much be hazed to get to our positions, that we don't have to continue that pattern with the younger women that are coming up in our organizations. So you're correct. It starts with us supporting ourselves as black women. And, you know, I was reminded of that with the whole presidential election. like, why was it a question of why we needed to support a black female in the presidency against who she was running for? But we kind of saw the hate towards or the dislike of black women for no other reason other than they're doing absolutely everything that we should be doing and working hard, and there's a sense of jealousy. But even with diversity and inclusion and affirmative action, we still had to have 10 degrees, and we still had to have a clean record, and we still had to work 60 to 80 hours and still not get the promotions, nor the pay, nor the credit that we deserve. So definitely we have to be our own allies in addition to everyone else.
I believe in women collaborating and celebrating each other. I personally don't look at it as a race. I just look at it as women on a whole. My group, Women Who Win, we minister to women of all race, all color. Doesn't matter where you're from. I have my girlfriend Michelle here. I think she's the only white person in the room. And she came out to the walk on Saturday, and she was just amazed. She get to meet some amazing women. And I just believe when we collaborate, when we celebrate each other, we can move mountains, women. When we get together to do things, we're unstoppable. So we need to celebrate, we need to collaborate with women. When we go out into the community, bring a bunch of women with you. Because the cause is great, the need is great. And I just believe that the emotional foundation that we supply in the community, when you have strong families, you have a strong and a resilient community. So I think we need to come together as women on a whole. It doesn't matter what color you are, come together and let's make it happen.
I have a question for the ladies in the audience. Raise your hand if you prefer working for a black female than a male. Okay, only the ones that's just getting in the job market or got out the job market. But now, one of the things that you look, right, you still in the job market? Okay, see? And one of the things we talk about from a psychological standpoint, and it happens with minorities a lot, we have a hard time working for another minority. And it's two sides to that coin, because sometimes you can be in that position, and as many of y'all talk about your trauma-informed counseling, sometimes because of the trauma we've had in our jobs getting to where we are, we're trying to make sure others that look like us are definitely prepared, but they might not receive it like that, and we might issue it too harshly. And so sometimes we need to kind of take a step back and say, am I giving them too much of a push? And sometimes you got to let them bump their own head, not knock it off. But sometimes we have to do that. That's one of the things that is kind of interesting when you work with allies. That's what I say, if they're going to work for a black male, it's not any of them, but a lot of us can be those allies. Be like, hey sis, you got this, I need you to come over here. Just go take that class, because that's the one we got to check off on this box for the next thing. I know you hadn't seen around the corner, just do it. And those are some of the things that we really talk about. And when you talk about us supporting us, and you will go cliche, for us, by us, a lot of things that you do, that's where we get there. And I don't know how many of y'all graduated from an HBCU, but that's kind of like a common thread when we're all in this thing together. One of the things I also want to talk about here is, what can we do to ensure that women of color or marginalized women are heard in public safety conversations? And when we're having these public safety conversations, if you're a single mother, are you in that public safety conversation when they're designing your house or when they're building the apartment complex, so that it's built in a way that it is well lit, it is built that has your CEPTED things where it's crime prevention through environmental design and these type things, so that you're living safely, and if you're working, it's safe for your child to come home, and these kind of things. What do we need to do to have your voices heard in those conversations? Because you look at it, here in Lauderhill, you have a female as your police chief, and you could hear how Harold Pryor was talking about what she brings to the table and how that is positively impacting Lauderhill, because she is a forward thinker. So now, what do we have to do that? Because I know she's Stanley, and life for her ain't been no crystal stair. So we have these things. So how do we do this? And I'll start on the far end this time.
I believe when we have community forums and we have settings like this, we need to encourage women to come out so their voices can be heard. A lot of times, you have this kind of forum and a lot of women won't come out because, I don't know, maybe it doesn't sound exciting, it doesn't sound like it's fun, but it's so informative. And we want to make sure that our women are informed about whatever the resources is that are in the community. So I think we need to encourage women to support things like this. I mean, there's so many women in this forum all day. So that shows that the need is there.
Okay.
And I think in settings like this, like we all know the issues. We all know that there's a high incidence of violence against Black women, Black children, more so against Black men and Black children. But coming from a scientific standpoint, I'm also in academia, the research isn't there. Trying to do research and identify the exact numbers, it's just not there. So in terms of advocacy and where dollars go, the dollars are going to go, because we can scream as loud as we want to, but then you only see white missing women on the news. You don't see our children, you don't see women that look like us on the news. So until we can really get out there and really get others to recognize how serious of an issue this is, it may not get the attention that it needs. So starting from there, I think is a good point.
Okay, when you all talk about system and systemic issues, you all know how education is systemically. You can't get a doctorate until you at least have a high school diploma. So if we're having a low rate of high school graduation, low rate of your bachelor's, low rate of a master's, the likelihood of someone having that passion to study at the doctoral level what you want to have studied is low. So therefore, if the other people are getting their doctorates and studying what progresses their communities, that's what gets written about in academia. Because imagine when I told them I want to deal with the impact of racial profiling on Black men becoming in law enforcement, because we got tickets and or arrests, that hurts us, but then they don't talk about how that really hurts you and even inside your career. So ladies, when we're doing these things, this is why I like for us to have these conversations, because we have a lot of young ladies out here that may not have even thought about their doctor, but that might be the one we need to say, hey, let's say, come here, this is what I want you to kind of like look at. And we won't even, as Mara was talking about from a healthcare standpoint, imagine what happens with healthcare, and has happened because you do not have the Black females as your doctor in the things that are happening. We need to have that representation, and I can tell you, I bet there's a lot of men in here that are your allies that are just ready to be those wings beneath your sails so that we can kind of get some things done. Would you like to comment on that one, or would you like another question?
So before we go to that,
Okay.
how many of you in this room, raise your hand, retired? Okay, good. How many of you in this room are owners of your own business? How many of you in this room work and don't work for the city of Lauderhill? How many of you are here not for your job? Okay, good. Some of you don't count. The average single woman is working 2 and 3 jobs. She also is tired at the end of the day and has to go home to 3 or 4 kids, maybe 2. She has no time for a community forum, none whatsoever. So to expect her to get up and come out here, or she can't afford to take a day off because she probably has 2 part-time jobs and gets no benefits. Okay? So we want their voice, but we're not going to find them. We want their voice, but we're not providing child care, early childhood intervention while they're having these conversations. So no, I am not coming.
And I love the passion that you have, and I can kind of empathize as well as understand what you're saying. And these are some of the things that you have to also have. When you have a forum, make sure it's of substance. Because a lot of forums, you go there and say, y'all could have sent me the PowerPoint.
That too, and we're here all day.
Right. And the best part's the last part. And so, and what you also look at is I want to just give this rundown because a lot of times we don't have these conversations. As you just stated about being a single mother or anybody and trying to afford housing. When you talk about it, a lot of times people don't understand the impact of crime on the price of your house. Because right now, if we work together as a community and we get the crime down, that means our home values go up. Right now, your home value goes up because you have crime. Therefore, your house cost is up, your apartment is up, your insurance is up on your car, and everything else. So because we aren't working together, crime is driving the cost of us here up. So therefore, if we have these forums and we come out of them with action items and we complete them, as Brother Hard was saying, we have to have that manifestation. Then we can say, okay, now that forum was worth it for me to go. And when we have the other issues, when you bring them there, let's be honest, everybody does not know everything. So if I don't talk to you, I don't know what the holdup is of why you're not coming. Because some people say, I'm not going to have any forums because the people I need to talk to not going to come. Instead of saying, why aren't they coming? So sometimes we have to do that. Okay, I appreciate that input. Anybody else want to comment on that?
And to add, crime also separates families. So when you talk about the financial impact of crime, you have that significant other that's perhaps incarcerated, or if you're living in public housing, they're not allowed to live with you. But then in addition to that, if you have a parent that's on
Section 8.
food stamps in Section 8, if you have two incomes, then now all of a sudden you don't qualify for the support. So it's in addition to just the impact on the community, what is crime doing to the family, and can we come up with alternatives rather than incarcerating individuals to keep families together so they're more supported that way?
Outstanding. And a lot of times when we have these conversations, if you all have ever looked at the Innocence Project, you all can Google that and you'll begin to see how many individuals that look like us have been taken out of our communities, but the Innocence Project shows you where they've had all these judicial issues with these particular things, and you imagine that, how that can be that trauma-informed care, and particularly how was he or she arrested and what happened at those particular times. All these things begin to come into play, and that's why we really applaud you ladies for doing what you're doing, but we're saying, what can we do to lighten that load and improve our communities? This next question is kind of an interesting one for us. What caregiving roles have you or someone you know taken on, formally or informally, that intersect violence prevention or recovery?
So, for me, my job is what I get paid for. I'm the Director of Community Outreach for State Attorney Harold Pryor for the entire county of Broward. Aside from that, I'm the president of the Broward Human Trafficking Coalition. And aside from that, I have my own 501c3 nonprofit, She, Me, Her, Eve, which is a consulting organization. So when we're talking about what we've taken on to nurture, right, within this environment. First of all, when we're thinking about the word nurture, right, and we're talking about, we have to think about safety first, right? When you're nurturing someone, you're making them feel safe, right? As women serving other Black women, right, the first thing that we should be focusing on is safety, because if Black women cannot trust you with their trauma, they won't. They will not, okay? Second of all, it's not that people don't want help. They don't trust help. There's a difference. Okay? So we need to stop judging. So when you're talking about nurturing, this is one way we can nurture. Stop judging a person's choices when you have no idea what their options were. Okay? That's how you nurture, that's how you create safety, because as insane, as crazy, as silly, as inappropriate as you may think the choice she made was, that choice, that option may have saved her life. So when we are in the community and we have decided as community leaders, as community activists, as community officials, when we have decided that we're going to take on this responsibility, right, for our people, we need to be very careful that we are not doing business instead of serving.
You know, as a chaplain, I go to the prisons. I minister at the prisons. I pray for people all the time. And when you're talking to someone, you don't look at them, you look at that situation to see where they are. I was just counseling a guy, he spent 19 years. He's out. He spent 19 years in prison and he's out 5 years. And he wants to get his life back on track. And I was encouraging him that God is a God of a second and a third and a fourth chance. And even though you went through that, you can rise again. And you know, people want to know that you are there for them and you're not going to judge them because of what they've been through. You want to show empathy because we all go through something at some time. It might not be the same thing that we all go through, but we have to make sure people are at a safe place. They feel like they're at a safe place, that they can be honest and open with you. And once they do that, you're able to encourage them and inspire them and let them know you have another chance at life. And right now, he started two businesses. He started two businesses, flourishing very well in his business. But just to show you that you have to give people a second chance. Don't look at their circumstances, but look at who they are. And the chance that you're here, the fact that you're here to seed and to sow and to encourage and to impact their life some way or the other.
So you asked, what haven't we done? And I chuckled and I said to Taisha, what haven't I done? And I love what you're saying about making sure we're serving and not doing business, right? And even when we're serving and truly serving, sometimes we forget self in that process. And I've done everything possible. When the person, and the reason I've done that is not because I do it for everybody. When I've created a safe space for that person, because I am the beat to their drum, my brother with the acrostics, because I'm the one that believed them the first time that they came with their story. And I was the one that educated them and said, that was not your fault. You did the best you could under the circumstances you were facing. And then when I amplify their voice and activate the power within to make the right choices, I'm then able to help them to transform their existence. So even when that transformation is a fall 20 steps backward from where they were when I first met them, I'm still there. So when they call, my son is right there, he will tell you, I always answer. I drop what I'm doing to go because I'm that community caretaker that really cares.
I'm a mentor for Parkway Middle School. I'm one of the mentors there. And I had a mentee years ago. She was in 6th grade at the time. And she just graduated high school. I just went to her high school graduation. Graduated with honors. When I first took on this little girl, all she wanted to do was fight. She was full of anger. And I saw that anger in her, because I recognized it myself. coming from where I came from. So I poured into her as much as I could, and I did the best that I was able to do. I was a single mother of 2 boys as well, so I'm raising my 2 boys, and I'm taking on now this young lady. But to see her now graduate, like I cried so hard at that graduation, and I was so proud of her because I saw where she could have gone. And because of what I chose to do to make an impact in her life, I saw where she is now and where she's going to go. So it's us. It starts with us. We can take that on in the community.
Anyone working as a helping professional or in direct care, you're automatically put in a nurturing role. And the goal is to not do more harm than good. So I mentioned earlier that I've worked with offenders. I've worked providing treatment in the jails. I've also worked with severe offenders, sexually violent predators, murderers. And it's really hard to sit there from a treatment perspective and to provide this person the care that they need. But the best way to nurture them is to provide competent care. As the Sheriff Tony mentioned this morning, it's not enough just to lock them up, because these individuals are coming home. And if you know anything about correctional institutions, they don't learn how to be loving and compassionate, and they're going to come home and be gentle and warm and loving. If they have a propensity for violence, they're going to come home worse, unless they get the proper interventions that they need. So regardless of what they did, and we talked about being non-judgmental, you have to be non-judgmental in that sense, regardless of what they did. If you truly are concerned about community safety, you have to work on the offenders, and you have to provide them the competent care that they need so that when they come home, they're less of a risk to our society.
I like the way you mentioned what Dr. Sheriff Tony mentioned. And I'm going to go back with what Brother Hard was talking about when you talk about the formation and how the child develops from that age 0 to 4, really, is when you have the largest growth. And you think about it, we oftentimes think that it has to be applied directly to the system, whether they're incarcerated, this and this, and then we talk about when they're raised. You think about the impact of women on society when you look at the demographics of our educators. You look at those demographics, we are the ones that are teaching. But as you stated, they don't pay enough for you to really just teach. It's teaching and something else. That also contributes to why you don't have black males in K through 6. So when we're looking at that, the ladies out there doing these particular things and you're dealing with it, and a lot of times you all have brought peace to a whole bunch of circumstances, because in the schools, young men will respond quicker and stay out of trouble when a lady says, "Come here, why don't you just sit right here?" Where if it is a guy, we tend to approach things differently. That's not the way I would tell him. And so that's why it takes both sides of this. So when we're doing this, a lot of our individuals, sometimes people think they have to be a certain age to have the influence. You don't have to be an older, seasoned sister to get and help your other sister as you talk about sisterhood. Because down there at Florida Memorial, I have a whole bunch of fights. It's girls fighting girls. That's the most things that we have in college, are the girls in the dorms, living there, fighting each other, and the ones fighting each other are on scholarship. You get on scholarship, now you have no money. You fight in my dorm, you have nowhere to stay. So now you on the track team or flag football, you living in Palm Beach, but you're at Florida Memorial. That's a lot of going back and forward. So those are some things, sis, I want y'all to look at the impact that you all are really having on everything. Definitely.
So I just want to speak to what you just talked about. So I am a firm believer that children learn what they live, and then they grow up and they live out what they've learned until you teach them something different. And for girls in particular, for little girls, their first example of what friendship looks like is the friendships that they have witnessed within their homes, with their mothers, their aunts, and their siblings, grandmothers, right? So if I'm a young girl and I grew up in a house and I, knew my mother had these friends and my mother's friends would come over and then after my mother's friends would leave, then I would see my mother, and this is just an example. I could see my mother, then she'd get on the phone with somebody else and talk about the friend that just left, talking about the girl that she called her friend. You know what I'm saying? So this is what I'm learning, what friendship is, because my mother has told me this is her friend. And so now she's showing me how I need to be a friend, right? So for women, for us up here who are serving in whatever capacity, when I do my groups all the time, because I do groups with women, and I say to them, the best thing that you can be to another woman or a young girl or somebody that you're mentoring is be who you needed when you were younger.
Yes.
Be who you needed when you were younger, because a lot of people, black women, and I've learned this from experience, they're being the best person, the best friend that they learned how to be. They don't know how to be or do it any different because they're living out what they've learned, right? And so people say, oh, well, you teach people how to treat you. I don't believe that. What I believe is you observe who people are. You watch how they treat other people. You watch how they love. You watch how they listen. You watch how they friend. And then you make a conscious decision of whether or not you want to participate in that.
That's right.
Right? Now, if you choose to participate in that, now you've taken on the ownership and the responsibility of teaching them something different. Right? If you don't want to participate in that and you still stay, you have no right to be upset with somebody for being exactly who they are. Right? And so when you talk about young ladies and they're fighting and they're doing this and they're doing that, that is why mentorship is so important, especially among young black girls, especially black girls that are bright and talented. And I tell them all the time, baby, gifts come without repentance. And your gifts will get you into many rooms and open many doors for you, but you will need character to stay there. So as mentors and with young women, it's important for us to teach them something different. Because sometimes as unreasonable, as violent, as ratchet as they may be, they're being what they've learned how to be. That's why they're looking at you and like, what is it? There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. This is what I know. I learned this from my parents. So I'm okay. Right? And that's again when we get into the, generational trauma and all of that stuff. But, again, judging people's choices when you don't know what their options were. People are they're being the best they know how, the best they learn how to be. And it's up to us to teach them something different.
I wanted to piggyback on the mentorship. And mentorship is very important and part of a mentorship group. And as you talked about FMU, we mentored a couple of ladies at FMU for 2 years. But we have to mentor these young women at an early age. When you wait till they're in college, I'm not saying it's too late, but they're in their own and they think the way they are is the right way. So I think we need to implement more mentorship program, elementary, middle school, high school, and university. Because you want to plant that at a young age. Grow up a child in the way he should go, as the Word of God said. When he gets old, he won't turn from that. So we need to implement more mentorship. We need more men and women as mentor in order for us to make sure that the next generation the next generation can pass the baton on to the next generation.
So I want to speak to two parts. Everything you said is so true. But I can't choose differently if I don't know my value. We have broken communities, broken homes, broken adults, broken, because we lack validation. So bear with me. My theory is called The Vortex of Bees. The book will be out soon. You plug your book, I'm a bloodline. The Vortex of Bees says, as Black people, systematically we are violated. We don't have to do anything. Our skin is a weapon. So we then encounter violence and we're violated. We move through life from that violence in a place of vulnerability. If I look to my mother in my vulnerability and she is still broken, can she validate me? No. So I continue looking for validation. I'm moving through life in a vulnerable state, and I only encounter more and more violence because sadly our world has predators. And I wear my vulnerability so brightly on my shoulder, they see me a mile away. And they come and they violate me further. Until a mentor who is the scaffold for our children when the parents can't do what they need to do, right? Mentors are that barrier between the home and the gangs, the barrier between the home and the traffickers, right? So when the mentor comes along and steps in as I am traveling down this, rickety road, they stop and they say, "You're beautiful." They validate you. And then you realize, what? I've never heard this before. And what? You don't want anything from me? You don't want my body? You don't want me to do something for you? You don't want me to laugh for you? You want nothing? Right? Then they get to the place of validation and they understand the value that they bring in. Then they can move to make the change, because now making the change makes sense. Because it didn't make sense before, because this is just my existence, this is my world. Now the change makes sense because now I know I don't have to live this existence and I can change. And you know what? I think I like how you look and how you are. I want to be like you. Can you mentor me? That's what we need. And one last thing, validation goes way back to birth. Dr. Hutchinson. The baby is born and they're still connected to the mother by an umbilical cord. When the cord is cut, the baby cries. The only thing that a human being knows to do at birth is to connect. Let me say that again. The baby's only knowledge is the need to connect to my source after you cut my connection. So, as I'm connected to my mother, I stop crying and I get my first experience of validation.
As we're watching that, I was watching it now, we'll have those things. If I can do this, I'd just like to do this because I think we've had some very enriching conversations. You all agree with that? And I will challenge all of us in here to at least validate one person in the next 24 hours. Just validate them. Don't make up anything because they can tell if you're lying. Validate them and just watch what happens and watch what we do as a community that begins to validate each other and how my sisters are validating each other and strengthening each other. I'd like to have each one of you all have maybe just a 15, 20-second close as we just wrap it around.
Thank you to Mayor Grant for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. But before I close, I did state earlier that I do a lot of anti-human trafficking work, and I just want to say to you all in this room that we need to do a better job. All of us need to do a better job of protecting our children and protecting each other. There are a lot of us grown adults walking around here with childhood trauma And because we have not dealt with our childhood trauma, it has affected our adult relationships. And it has rendered us incapable of doing what we need to do to protect our children. We have become a generation, we've become a land and environment of predator protectors. And we have lied to our children and told our children, you know, if somebody violates you, if somebody touches you, I want you to tell me. But we didn't tell them it depends on who touched you. Right? I implore you today to be consistent. I implore you today to be honest. I implore you today to be adamant about protecting not just your children, but all children, right? Because let me tell you something. If a child does not feel the warmth of its village, it will burn it down.
Thanks again for this opportunity, Mayor Grant. As Jamara said, this is great. I'm glad we're here. I charge you today, when someone comes to you because they trust you as a safe person, believe them the first time. When you see injustice in the workplace, in the community, in the family, unmute yourself. Don't be quiet. Evil thrives in silence. Shame is the devil's strongest tool. He will allow you to be violated and keep you silent because you're too ashamed to speak. So speak up. Find that person that you trust, that you know is not going to betray you, and unmute yourself. That's the name of my organization. Unmute yourself.
Thank you, Mayor and Dr. Seltzer, for having us here. I just wanted to say that at the end of the day, I know that we, as women, we carry a lot. And one of the things that I try to at least educate my clients and so forth about is financial literacy. I truly believe that financial education can get you out of a lot of your situations that you may be currently in now. A lot of times we find ourselves in situations because financially we can't get ourselves out of it. So I urge us women in here to definitely get a plan, put a plan together. Financial freedom is actual freedom, guys. It really is.
Yes, and thank you for inviting me to participate in this event. It's been a very powerful day. And someone briefly mentioned about investing in our systems, but we know that our systems do not work. There is truth in the fact that there's a direct correlation between third grade test scores and how prisons are funded. Our state attorney just sat here in the last panel discussion and said that he could not read until the 4th grade. And I wish he would have talked about what helped him. But as women in leadership and nurturers, we see each other and we see the needs that our community has. So when you have an individual like that that's struggling, our immediate thought shouldn't be, oh, there's something wrong with that person. There's possibly something wrong with the system, or this person has a need that has not been met. And I encourage us as a community to keep looking out for each other, because the systems, as we know, do not work for us.
Thank you, Mayor Denise, for the opportunity. I just want to use this opportunity to charge you to take action. You don't want to come to a forum like this and you get all these great information and then you leave the same way you came. Take action, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever it is that you're passionate about, use that in the community, whether it's for the children, whether it's for the women, whether it's for the men, whatever it is, take action. Don't let the day end, as he said, without you validating someone. Let them know how important they are, because at the end of the day, when you have a strong family foundation, you have a strong community. Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, I just want to tell you, thank you for having us. Thank you for allowing me to come. It has definitely been my honor and privilege to share the stage with these ladies. And I am Dr. Gregory Salters, and you all have been seasoned for success.
Let's give it up one more time for this amazing panel and moderator.
Thank you so much, Chaplain. This has been an incredible day, hasn't it been? Yes. Lots of information, really, really good stuff. Things for us to not just get fat on, but to be able to apply as well. So thank you for this wonderful panel. Thank you kindly for taking time out of your very busy schedule and to be able to share with us in the city. And so now it is over. It's time for us to go. I believe we have dinner. Yes? I have the best city manager there is. Please give this the hearts I have. Because he just knows what we need, right? And I want to thank staff, our city manager, our city attorney, the city manager's team, which consists, of course, of our assistant city manager, Mr. Henderson as well, and our intergovernmental affairs director. It's his new position. So thank you so much, Zach Davis, for all that you do as well, and the team that is here that's helped to just put everything together. Our media team as well, our communications team, and a part of that team is Miss Stephanie Broomfield, who was extremely influential in ensuring that the media was advised of what was happening and that they came out to see the good things that are happening in the city of Lauderhill. So we thank her for that coverage, and everyone else, Lizma, Lahoma, Julie, and everyone that helped to put this together. Yolan, of course, we appreciate you as well, Tears. And of course, the most esteemed executive assistance operations person today. Thank you so much for that as well. And of course, all the other community partners who came together to make this happen, and our fire department and our police department, our chief, who was so gracious in sharing this day with us and making sure that this was a success. And all the panelists, of course, Miss Lana, Lindo, knowing anything I'm in, you know, she, as the Jamaicans would say, she did it. Yes, so we thank you so much. And everyone else, and all of the vendors. I did have a list of all the vendors, so I still had my list. It might be gone. But every last one of the vendors that were here, Michelle Phillips as well, Women in Distress, I'm not sure the area agency on aging was here, United Way was here, the Healing Arts Institute was here as well. And I do know that the Lauderhill Chamber of Commerce was here. I know our Parks and Police Department, Fire Department also had a table, and everyone that helped to play a part in this. And healthy mothers, healthy babies, yes, very, very important as well. Everyone in every single department in the city of Lauderhill that helped to put this together. We appreciate you, and it's continued success. Our protocol officers that were here as well to assist our panelists. I know Stacy Miranda assisted, as well as Dr. Wiles, and everyone else that made this happen. And listen, earlier this morning, when we started this out, the seniors came in their groups from our Satkins Center. They just having a good old time, huh? Everything we're having, we just drag them on. We just make sure that they're engaged, and our young people. So again, thank you so much for coming out. God bless you. And we're going to do a final blessing. I need it first, so come. I'm standing.
Heavenly Father, Lord God, we thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to come together, to solve problems, to face challenges, and to strengthen the foundation that we have here in the city of Lauderhill. We know that nothing happens that is not ordained and blessed by you. So we're so grateful for all of the blessings that we receive. We're so grateful for your living presence amongst us. We bind Satan in the name of Jesus Christ, and we command him to stay out of this city, stay out of our homes. Lord, we're so grateful. We are so grateful. We ask that you would bless the meal that we're about to receive. as well as the hands that have prepared it. May the meal be nourishment to our bodies, and the fellowship here today be nourishment to our souls. We make all our prayers and petitions in your holy name, and let us all say, Amen. God bless you. Thank you.
Going eight, going eight.